Good. You just want to turn, not force it. Wait until you feel the square slide on to the impact driver, and then you know you have it. And class, quiet, quiet if you can. I know everyone's excited, but please try to get ready for the beginning of class. Get situated here anywhere in the grass. If you did bring a chair with you, as listed on the class syllabus for today, then you can set it up wherever you would like. All right, well, now that it looks like everyone is finding their seat and getting comfortable, I'd like to welcome you to a very, very special edition of our Driver's Ed course. As you can see, we are enjoying a beautiful evening here. The sun is getting ever so slightly lower in the sky, which is creating that relaxing atmosphere and lighting that you are enjoying as we speak. The princess so graciously allowed us to move our classes outdoors for this evening, reserved this wonderful lawn here, right in time to enjoy a perfect race here at the Mushroom Bridge racetrack. Excellent. Well, I'm glad to see everyone else is as excited as I am. But let's not forget why we're here. We are in our third lecture of our basic driver's ed course, so please turn in your textbooks to page 352. This is maintenance and safety, one of my favorite topics, so please try to pay attention. And even though we do have the enjoyment of the race behind us, please try not to get too distracted. Unless there is something extremely exciting, then of course we will all just stop and take a look. I only joke, of course. Now let's go ahead and get started. If you can see there on that first page in this unit, we are going over basic safety and maintenance. So that entails all of the maintenance and features of your cart, from wheel all the way to steering wheel, that are going to allow you to operate and navigate the tracks like this one safely and effectively. Correct. Can anyone raise their hand and tell me what the first safety concern listed in the unit happens to be? Ah, yes, you right here. That is correct, and that is tire maintenance. The carts that each of you will drive are, of course, propelled and controlled via the tires meeting the pavement, or if you are on a more challenging track, perhaps dirt, sand, even, alright, the Rainbow Road track is well known to be a bit tricky on the wheels. Excellent. So one thing that we want to cover immediately is your tire treatment. Now this is just a simple tire treating foam. All of you should have your coursework and required items with you, so please retrieve your can of tire treatment and prepare to become familiar with it and practice the mixing and application. Sure, cans up, please. I'll give everyone just a moment to rummage through their bags and retrieve the needed item. Good, it looks like everyone does have it. So as you can see, we do have just a simple plastic cap. So what is important is that you keep this can safely in your belongings. You should have a can of this, not required to be with you during races, of course, as storage is at a premium, but you should have one of these at each of your garages or pit crew headquarters, wherever you will be stationed. Before and after races, this should be applied directly after the conclusion of a race or vigorous practice session, and it will keep your tires from becoming worn down and cracked during the harsh sunlight or harsh conditions such as cold or things like that. Even things like beach races, that salt and salt water and sand can become an extreme irritant to the rubber on the tires. So this is just a bit of formula that can be sprayed on the tires. Let it soak in, no need to rub it in or wipe away the excess or anything like that. Just let it run off and soak into the rubber, and it will treat and condition your tires to last even with the most strenuous of conditions. Now, before you apply, you need to have a firm grip on the can, and you should have a vigorous shake for no less than 1 minute. So please pick up the cans and practice that now. Good. Yes, question? Right, either hand will work. No, that's all right. No such thing as a silly question. We want to just make sure that we shake up the contents before applying the spray. Yes, the race does seem to be getting quite lively. This is one of those tracks that always seems to bring a large crowd and usually does not disappoint. Right, keep shaking the can. It's important to perfectly mix the contents. That way you don't have a overly diluted solution sprayed on your tires. Good. All right. Now, once the shaking of the can and mixing of the interior components has completed, you want to make sure that you remove the lid. So, like I said, this lid rather can be easily cracked. So it's important that we maintain, that's right, as you can hear, that plastic is quite thin. So over time it can become brittle, and if cracked, then of course you are at risk of having the spray involuntarily discharged, which can be quite a serious issue. So let's just pop that lid off. There we are. As you can see, we have quite a snug fit of that lid, which is perfectly suited for storage and a quick retrieval without the worry of having it dislodged too easily. Alright, so simply remove the lid. Now, before we continue, I want to remind the class that we are not actually discharging the spray during class. I don't want a repeat of last semester. We had an overly foolish, Koopa, that discharged the spray directly at a classmate, which was quite unfortunate. As you can see, we do have a ridged top of that spray for a firm grip. So simply spray at the or point at the tires, rather. Spray in a circular and continuous motion around the outside rim of that tire, and then repeat on the interior surface as well as the treads if you can. Always remember to replace the lid, and you should be good to go. Any questions? Excellent. Well, let's move on to the next, and one of the most important aspects to the tires that propel your cart. Of course, if you students here are lucky, maybe someday you might be racing here on the Mushroom Bridge Raceway, or any of the numerous cups that are sanctioned by the princess herself. But for now, we are simply in training until you are deemed eligible and competent enough to enter a sanctioned race. And in order to make sure that that happens, you need to pass cart inspection. To do so, we need to make sure that your lug nuts on the tire are tightened and placed correctly. in order to do that, we have two methods that we can accomplish said goal. The first is the more manual method. This is a torque wrench. So, this will allow you to find the perfect torque on the lug nuts of your tire. Of course, as we know, all carts have 4 lug nuts, so it's important, vitally important, to make sure all 4 lug nuts are perfectly and adequately tightened. Throughout the course of a race, the rapid spinning of the tire, you can have a loosening of those lug nuts, and please, if indeed they were to fall loose, you would have an exponentially dangerous and costly wreck. So simply place the torque wrench on the tire. We want to find and adjust to the optimum torque that the lug nut should be tightened to. Of course, we should have 30 pounds of pressure on all cart lug nuts. So we simply twist until we have the proper setting, and then place on the lug nut, and simply twist. Now, it's important with a torque wrench not to over tighten. Remember that with the adjustment here on the handle, we already have adjusted for our maximum and desired torque. So once you find that that torque wrench begins to tighten up and offer a good amount of resistance, that is exactly where you need to stop. So please, all of you, pick up your torque wrenches from your required materials for class. They're in the back. You didn't bring your torque wrench. What part of the syllabus were you unfamiliar with? You just forgot. All right. Well, please see me after class and share with a fellow classmate if you can. So please pick up. We will simulate the lug nut insertion here by holding onto the socket and simply begin to twist. Keep a consistent and gentle motion. No need to force it. Good. And reset. Once again. Good. And again, this time much slower. Good. And there we are. All right. How did everyone do? Excellent, excellent. It looks like this particular class might have a decent chance of participating in a sanctioned race after all. Now, in case any of you want to go the extra mile in terms of preparation and efficiency with your lug nut removal, you can't go wrong with a very hardy impact driver. Now, this will accomplish everything that the torque wrench can accomplish. Besides the setting for torque and things like that, you have to eyeball it just a bit with the impact driver, but this will expedite the process, meaning that you can place and remove lug nuts at just a fraction of the speed, or I guess it takes a fraction of the time, if you will. Now, this is a half-inch driver, meaning that all sockets need to be purchased with a half-inch insert, or else they will not fit. But I do have a half-inch socket with me here. So this particular socket is, of course, the default and standard size for all cart lug nuts. Now, can anyone tell me the only cart that's known to carry lug nuts that require a larger than 13/16 socket? Anyone? Oh, right up front. That's correct, the Wario cart. Wario and his brother Waluigi are known to drive a cart that requires just a slightly larger socket driver, but unless any of you are looking to replicate Wario and his iconic cart, then I think the 13/16 socket will do just fine. Now what we are going to practice today, so please pick up your impact drivers that were assigned to each of you for today's class. Right, you're going to pick it up firmly. Of course, we don't have a battery pack in because we're not actually taking any lug nuts off or putting them on. We are going to practice placing the socket onto the driver. So please line up the square hole with the square insert. Sometimes you just have to get it just right. Keep turning in case you are having a hard time lining it up just perfectly. And they are quite snug, so please take your time. You just want to turn, not force it. Wait until you feel the square slide on to the impact driver, and then you know you have it. And once you have it, you just give a firm push. And there we are. We have a perfectly snug and ready for action impact driver. You would then just place this directly onto the lug nut, and with a simple click of the trigger, it will instantly zip off that lug nut. So just grab that trigger and let's just practice a few presses. As silly as it sounds, it's good to start forming that muscle memory now. Once again, point. We do have a handy light on a lot of these impact drivers. Point, place on the lug nut, and press the trigger. Continue practicing, please, class. I want everyone to feel extremely comfortable when the time comes to inevitably change a tire. Now, can anyone explain to me the most common cause for flat tires or a need for a replacement tire in one of these races, such as the Mushroom Bridge track here? Yes, please continue practicing while you think. Yes. That's right, banana peels. The slide and spin out motion of a banana peel is an unfortunate cause for flat tires and creates a lot of wear and tear and lateral sliding, which is not the common use for tires, of course. So it's something that you want to make sure you really look out for, and this will come in handy for replacing any damages caused by said peels. All right, so please go ahead and remove your socket now and place it to the side. Now, the next thing, with that in mind, the last thing that we need to cover with tires is how to properly reinflate. Sometimes a tire doesn't need to be completely replaced, just reinflated. Can anyone name me a situation or track that might elicit the need for additional air to be placed or replaced in a tire after completing a course? Right, cold weather tracks. That's right. And the cold air sometimes causes the tires to lose just a bit of that PSI. So with that said, we need to have a coupling or coupler here. This just has a collar that slides down, as you can see. This allows you to hook this to an air compressor hose and attach another attachment. This is a common type of attachment. Of course, you would need the other piece here, but things like this you could use to clean out air filters, things like that. But what we would really need is a tire inflation device. Slide in, but the most tricky part of the application is actually the collar. You need to pull down the collar, insert the tire inflator, and then slide the collar back up. As you can see, we do have ball bearings inside that collar here. And if you give just your coupler a bit of a shake, you can actually hear those ball bearings. So it's important to always test your couplers. So please pick up your couplers now, test the ball bearings. A damaged coupler will not have that shaking sound that you can hear. So please shake the couplers, see if you can hear those ball bearings move inside. Right, sometimes you do have to hold it just a bit closer to the ear. Good. See if you can hear that. Good. Really test out both ears. Make sure that you can hear that the ball bearings are working as they should. Next, let's just practice pulling that collar down, making sure that it glides smoothly. As those ball bearings sometimes wear out, that collar will begin to not function properly, which means that your accessories will not fit snugly or, unfortunately, will not stay snugly fit. So just test out that collar before each use. Go ahead and practice that now. Test out the couplers. Of course, these couplers will go with you on your travels, so make sure that they are indeed working. Good. All right, you can place those to the side. The last thing that we want to check is just the underneath side of our cart. Make sure that you don't have any leaking oil or coolant, things like that. And to do that, we just need a magnetic light here. This has a nice bright LED with a simple push of a button and a magnet on the top, so you can just stick this to a compartment in your car and it can ride with you on your tracks. If you do have problems, you can pull off the track, click the button, and have a look. So just practice. Please take the LED lights out, practice the click of that button, and get used to that motion. Of course, I don't have batteries in my light. In order to change your batteries, you just unscrew the bottom, slide batteries in, and reattach. And then, again, click, 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 click. Good. All right. Are there any questions from today's class so far? Good. Well, if you are not in any hurry, you can pack up the items that you've brought with you today and enjoy the rest of the race. It sounds like we've had a good one so far, so please feel free to get comfortable, remain in your seats, or travel around and see other parts of the track. The Mushroom Bridge track is an absolute pleasure to witness any race on, and please enjoy the rest of the show. Yes, like I said, please come see me after class. If there are any other questions, please do email me. All right, we will see you next Tuesday.